Hi everybody, welcome back to Barbie Bakes. I hope you had a good week. Today we're actually going to be baking a frosted apple pecan bread. So I've got 2 cups of sifted all-purpose flour. Into that I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And then I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And then I'm going to add, after this, I'm going to add 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Now you know if you use all-purpose, you have to put your soda and salt in there to make it rise. Self-rising you don't, but for baking, all-purpose is usually better, except I like self-rising for biscuits. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, I'm going to mix that up a little bit. I'll mix it up to the, you can tell when it's mixed real well because your cinnamon and all will blend in. Okay, now I've sprayed my loaf pan to put the bread in with I use the baker's, it's got a little flour in there, and then I've set my oven at 350. So now in this bowl, we're going to add a cup of sugar, a 1/2 cup of milk, a 1/2 cup of oil, I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. We'll use the same spoon, it's not going to hurt because it's all going to go together. And 1 egg. Now we're going to cream this together until the egg's mixed up real well, and then mix it in our dry ingredients. Okay, we're going to blend this up. So when I get the, here are my dogs today, they're
having a tantrum.
They're on a roll. Now we're going to add this to our dry ingredients. Lord, what am I going to do with that dog? See how we're getting this mixed up, our dry ingredients. This is very easy, you know, once you mix it and everything, not a lot of ingredients. Then when we get this mixed up real well, we're going to add about 2.5 cups of chopped up apples, and I use the Honey Crisp. Now, what's good for this is either Honey Crisp or green apples. Haven't been doing too much this week. It's been pretty cold. The wind's been really blowing a lot, and I hear the groundhog saw his shadow, then he didn't see his shadow, but hopefully there's not any more than 6 weeks cold weather left. But you never know in this area. This summer we'll be grilling out a lot and planting some flowers and enjoying the outdoors. Now we're just going to fold in these apples. Now just turn it over, fold it in. Make sure it's all mixed up in there. That'll be enough about right there, I think. Some of these recipes I make, I think it's building my muscles. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now I'm taking a 3/4 cup of chopped pecans. I'll mix that up in there. I made some of this the other night, and it didn't last very long. But that's a good thing. At least you know they liked it. Like I said, I've preheated the oven to 350. And I sprayed my loaf pan so it doesn't stick. Now this week I'd also made for the family, I made my bananas were getting ready to go bad. And I don't like to waste, so I made some banana walnut. I like the walnuts with the bananas, and I like the pecans with the apples. We have our batter that we folded in the apples and the pecans. Now I'm going to make the crumb topping. Now you start off with 5 tablespoons of cold butter. Now I left this out for about 45 minutes because I didn't want it real cold, but you got to have it cold enough so when you mix everything in. So we'll put in 1/3 cup of flour, all-purpose flour, 2 tablespoons of sugar, granulated, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, and 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. Now what we're going to do is we're going to mix this up with the butter, and it'll make like a crumb type thing, and we're going to sprinkle it on top. So we want to make sure the butter gets in there because that's what will make it crumbly like. When I get this all mixed up, I'll just take my hands and spread it around over there and then make sure it's crumbled up. So you don't want this to be dry. You want to make sure that butter, and the cold butter will be in little lumps, but that's okay. That's the way it's supposed to be. I make up several loaves of this when I have apples that I don't want to go bad. And you can freeze this if you don't want to eat it all. Okay, that's mixed up good enough. I'm going to just crumble it across the top. See how it's lumpy? And that's good because the butter that's mixed with the sugars will melt, and it'll make a nice cinnamony crumbly top for it. And you don't have to put this on here, and you don't have to put a frosting either. I mean, this bread is good just the way it is when you bake it. And I like it sometimes when it's warm to spread some butter on it or some cream cheese. That's good. Have you a slice in the morning with some other fruit. You could have you some strawberries and yogurt. Okay, we got it in the oven, and I'll see you back here in about 55 minutes. I've had my apple pecan bread cooking for about an hour now at 350, and I put a toothpick in it and it came out clear. So we're going to take it out of the oven, and I'm going to set it here to cool. And while it's cooling, I'm going to make the frosting for the top. But first, what I usually like to do, go around the edges like this, so you can see how that crumb topping I put on there melted. And it'll be like when you have your apple crumb cake. This is the apple pecan bread. Okay. So we're going to let that cool. And now for the frosting, I've got a tablespoon of melted butter. And I have a 1/2 cup of powdered sugar. And this is a vanilla glaze. A tablespoon of milk. And we're going to have 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. And all we're going to do is mix that together really well. And after that cools about 10 minutes, I'll put it over the top. Because if it runs down some, it's good, but you don't want it to run, all of it to run off. So you can see how I'm mixing this, and see how that melted butter and the powdered sugar. See how nice and brown and everything on top there. Now I'm going to I let it cool about 10 minutes, and now I'm going to put this frosting on here because I want it to melt some over it, and then I'll have to wait a few more minutes before I cut it, because if you cut it too warm, it's going to fall apart on you. So we'll just put that on there and let it run down. Okay, we'll get all this on there. And see, once it cools a lot, this icing will be more firm. Look at this frosted apple pecan bread. It looks delicious. Now it's still a little warm, but I'm going to slice it with my bread knife here very gently because I don't want it to fall apart. And I'm going to show you what it looks inside. Okay, you can see the apples and the nuts in there. I'm going to slice another piece. It's going to fall apart because it's so crumbly. It's still real warm. You can see it's steaming, but that's okay. It fell apart, but we'll eat the crumbs, believe me. That crumb topping with the icing, and then there's your apples and nuts. It's still a little warm. It's so good, but you know, I like cream cheese on mine or some melted butter, but it's good just like this. That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me on Barbie Bakes. Don't forget to subscribe to YouTube and follow me on Instagram. Okay, till next time, have a good time, good day, whatever. Bye-bye.